Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's time to do a little bit more DIY on the 964 today. Today's stereo system day, a project I've been wanting to get into for a very long time ever since I got the car. I love my music and I'm so excited to start. Let's get into it. This is the head unit that was installed in the vehicle when I purchased the car. It's an old Alpine unit, supposed to be 4x45 watts. It was powering some 6.5 inch splits component speakers in the front doors, which were Hertz woofers with Alpine tweeters. Crossovers were installed, and it's got some terrible looking Boston acoustic plate speakers in the rear, which are too big and look shocking because you can see them when you're looking at the vehicle from the back of the car, which I'll show you in a second. But what we've done recently is we've installed these babies in the front doors to replace the terrible speakers that were in the car. Very happy with these so far. Still need to tune in the tweeters a little bit because I think the tweeters are pushing way too many decibels and they're a bit overpowering at the moment. So I'm going to play with those and just turn them down a little bit. But I'm really happy with the clarity coming out of the speakers. They sound fantastic. What's going in today is this. And I've been wanting to get one of these for quite a while. Now, the reason why I picked up a Focal iSub Active is this is the new model, which replaces the Focal iBus 2.0. So this does not have an inbuilt amplifier to power the front speakers. I'm powering the front speakers from the new head unit, which I'll show you in a moment. And this amp runs straight from the new head unit. It's not powered back to the battery, it runs straight out of the unit. I've had a bit of a play with it and hooked it up to do a temporary install just to hear it, and I'm really stoked with how it sounds. The challenge now is to fit it under the driver's seat. So here's the speakers installed in the front doors. They look pretty factory. When you get up close, the grille mesh does not match the original tweeter covers. But it's close enough for me. Look, I'm not going to be too picky about it. You can see the Focal through the bottom of the door pocket if you really search for it, but it is obscured, and you can obviously see the little French logo up the top there. They're a different colour, but when you stand back, they look pretty OEM. So that's the look that I was sort of after. This car already had 6.5s installed in the doors instead of the 5.25, so I had the space there already to stick these in. It was a pretty easy fit up. And what I did was I pulled my driver's seat out. I'm just in the process at the moment playing around with this plate down here. Now, it looks a lot scarier than what it actually is. This is just a relay which is attached to that plate. That relay is for the rear spoiler. That's the control module for the rear spoiler. Then you've got a plug here, which is fixed to the plate, which the electric seat plugs into. And you've also got this one here, which is also part of the electric seat function. Aside from that, we've got a few things in here, which I'm really not sure what they do, but they certainly weren't connected when I pulled the seat out. So we've got this one here, not too sure what that is. And we've got this one here, definitely not connected in my vehicle when I pulled that seat out. So the challenge now is I need to kind of get these little brackets here, bend those babies down, rearrange all this stuff so that I've got plenty of room so I can get this amplifier, which is down here, fit it underneath this seat. That's my plan. Now, the amp comes with a little gain knob, which is wired, which I'm going to hide because it shoots out a blue LED light once the car's turned on, and it looks terrible. I don't want to be able to see that or see any remnants of that light there when it's installed. So that's an important part of the amp, though. I need access to that control. I've tuned the amp in now with bypass filters and subsonic bass and all that sort of stuff's been tuned, and it's sounding really good. I'm really happy with it. And the unit that I put in the car is that one. So it's a Blaupunkt Frankfurt unit. looks completely factory. It looks amazing how well it suits this car. It was a pretty tight fit getting it in, but it did go with a little bit of pushing. It's great. It's a great unit. It's got fantastic sound quality. It is 4x50 watts and it's got heaps of power driving those front speakers. They sound really good. But when you flip this up, you've got access to your different types of USB connections there. There's an SD card slot if you want to bring your music on a card. But it's importantly for me, it's Bluetooth enabled. I've got my little microphone set up there, which was run up behind the windscreen seal. Pretty easy sort of process. But this this head unit rather, has just fitted straight in. It looks like it was supposed to be there. I'm super happy with how it sounds. It's just when you drive this car with these speakers, there's no bass when you're actually on the move. So I do love my music. Whilst I do love the naturally aspirated sound of the air-cooled engine, and a lot of the time I do drive with no radio at all with the windows down, for me, I need tunes. It's a big part of who I am, and I love listening to music. It doesn't have to be crazy quality, it doesn't have to be crazy loud either, but it does need to sound decent, and I'm pretty sure this is going to tick my boxes. So next step is to modify up this plate, get it back in the car, attach the amp to it, run the wire, and away we go. As far as the amp's concerned, it came with a factory loom, which basically, there are two plugs that plug out of the back of the head unit, which go into the loom, and then the two plugs that were in the back of the head unit plug into the loom itself. Then the loom runs straight to the amp, and away you go. You don't have to run active power, you don't have to do any of that stuff. Super easy installation, as long as you can get your amp to fit. Let's see how we go. So I mentioned before that you can see the rear speakers through the rear window of the car. You can see them sitting up there, right? These are the Boston acoustic speakers. They're sitting on these hideous brackets. And because the speakers sit so high, when you're sitting behind your car, all you can see is that. Now that to me is an unacceptable look. They have simply got to go, and they sound terrible anyway. I picked up a couple of these factory looking 4x6 inch speaker plates, or covers rather. So I've ordered some Infinity reference 4x6 inch speakers to replace those terrible Boston acoustics that are in the car. I've had to remove the tin plate because the sub simply won't clear this seat, and the seat won't be able to move fore and aft with that plate in because the sub sits too high. This sub is 63 millimeters high exactly. It's the lowest profile sub I found that's got a bit of punch and a bit of kick, but this does fit. I've test fitted the seat slides, everything's good. What I've got to do now is just take all these looms. The only two that attach to the seat is this one and this one, these two. So they've got to be free and sliding with the seat. The rest of these, the control module, the relay, and this other redundant plug over here, or two, I'm just going to fix basically into this side here. But I'm going to make sure that when I fix them in, there's going to be no rattles and no pops in there. So I'll probably wrap them in something to make sure that they can't rattle and clunk against each other or the chassis or the sub. And then I'll fix them in, and then I'll fix the seat back in. The wiring loom, I've just chased underneath the dash, and I've pulled out this panel here just to chase it underneath. But that's going to basically sit underneath this kick plate here, and it's going to feed out underneath here, underneath the seat, so that I can wrap it up and feed it into the front of the amplifier over here. But that's the end of the loom. So you've got your little clip that goes in for your speakers, and you've got your three cables. You've got an active, you've got a ground, and you've got a power, which I'll just plug straight into here. And then Bob's your uncle. It's away and it's punching, so really simple to connect this thing. It definitely fits in a 964. So anybody wondering whether or not you can get an iSub, a Focal iSub 2.0 active to fit into a 964, you definitely can without modifications to the car, but you do have to take the tin plate out. This is the tin plate I'm referring to. So here's the bottom of the factory Recaro sport seats that came out of the vehicle. You can see that on these seats there are 3 steel lugs. There's one here, and on the back there's one there, and there's one up here. They're the lugs that foul if you try and set this amp sideways, i.e. long edge of the amp running from side to side of the car. The only way you can get it to fit, if you're going to fit the amp and run it sideways like that, is to cut those lugs off the factory Recaros, and I was just so reluctant to do that. These seats are going to get recovered in time, and I'm planning to keep them in the car. I don't want to mess with the seats. So the only way you can get it to fit is to run the amp long ways, i.e. along the length of the chassis of the vehicle that way, so that it can fit between these 2 plates. But it will fit, and it does work. Okay, so it's all done, guys. Pretty happy with how this has turned out. It's all fitted in the car pretty nicely. Let's take a look. So here's the rear parcel shelf. They're the new Infinity reference speakers that I've put in to replace the Boston Acoustic ones that were there. You can see the marks that the Boston Acoustics have left in the rear parcel shelf. I need to recover that. But those speakers are how they should look. They look pretty factory. The covers that I got off Amazon work pretty well. I did have to modify the speakers and take the plates off the speakers to get the covers to fit properly, which wasn't such a big deal. But really happy with how they look. And they sound pretty good too. But importantly, when you're sitting behind the car, you no longer see those enormous speakers in the back window that just look so crap. Anyway, so that's the first part. Really happy with that. The underseat sub sits nicely under here. It's just straight underneath the carpet. All the connections and inputs run to the front of the amp, so nice and accessible. I ended up running the cables and the loom down behind this kick panel here, and it slides down underneath the carpet and runs along that seam of the carpet in that way. It was easier than trying to install it underneath this kick plate here. There wasn't any room under there anyway. So I thought I'd give you a quick look at what the head unit looks like in the vehicle at night, and how well the dash lights match the light emitted from the front of the head unit, which is completely tunable. You can pretty much get it to tune the colour to suit any vehicle, so I'm super happy with the way it looks. And the sounds come up pretty well as well. Have a listen. Tuning in and watching. Please give us a subscribe if you haven't already. More 964 content on the way. And for those of you who are considering installing a sub underneath the factory seat in a 964, it literally can be done. Thanks very much.